Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise this morning to speak on this matter of public importance about government priorities. And in addressing this matter today, you have to question what the government's priorities are when you see ministers in this place repeatedly, intentionally misrepresent what's happening in Tasmania and misrepresent the positions of this government to not only this House but also to Tasmanians. And it feels to me, therefore, that the priority of this government is to pretend there's nothing wrong here and there's nothing going on, nothing to look at here, and to pretend that everything's okay. And if we just keep repeating the things that we've been saying before that we know aren't true, then everything's going to be all right. Now, I just want to point to some things that were spoken about this morning. We know in Tasmania that the priorities for Tasmanians are health, housing and reducing the cost of living pressures. We know that for so many Tasmanians, if not directly, personally, someone in their circle, someone in their community, in their family or in their village is under pressure with cost of living pressures, whether it's unaffordable rentals, unattainable home ownership, whether it's actually not having safe shelter, living in the streets, camped in the bushes not far out of a central area in a town, or in fact driving out of town into our regional and rural areas where for so many years these communities wouldn't see homelessness, who are now experiencing homelessness in our small towns of Tasmania. We know that these are priorities and that these are the pressures of this community, but this government continue to peddle out misinformation. Now, this morning, the Minister responsible for housing made some statements in this place which are misleading, and he continues to do this. He talks about how important supply is, but what we know and Tasmanians know is honesty is important. They talk about going to be able to reach their target of 1,500 homes. Now, I will be here on that date and hear whether they reach their target, because we know it is almost near impossible for this government to deliver on the things that they talk about. The Minister himself talked about the great records that they've been making. But he talked about numbers in isolation, and it's great to hear a number because without any reference it feels like maybe it's okay. But when he talked about the outcomes month by month of this government on housing, he didn't actually say what they're meant to be delivering. So let's just read this out. April 22, meant to be 83 homes, 18 achieved. That's a shortfall of 65 homes for Tasmanians. May 22, meant to be 83 homes, 18 again, a shortfall again of 65. Then we go through the months. Attained 52, 21, 6, a shortfall of 77, 8, 16. This is every month it's meant to be 83 homes, 45, 17, 10, 29. This government continues to stand and say they're on target, they're delivering housing for Tasmanians, but they are not. If you collect over the last 12 months those results, it's 314 homes when it's meant to be 1,000. You calculate that out to 10,000 homes, and that'll be 3,000, just over 3,000 homes delivered to Tasmanians. It's not acceptable to stand here in this place and continue to say that you're doing a good job when you're not. The same Minister for Energy, who in response to Tasmanian Labor repeatedly talking about capping power prices, again says nothing to see here, it wasn't our policy, we really didn't say that, we were going to do these things and it's not really possible or good idea. We've now got people from the crossbench who used to be in the government calling on the same thing. We've got TasCos calling on the same thing. Tasmanians know that the thing that this government can do directly is manage power prices. If you cap power prices, which one of your policies was in the past, then you will relieve the pressure for Tasmanians and they will see that you're doing something for them. But what we know is this government haven't quite figured out what minority government is, and it's actually this place working together in the best interests of Tasmanians. And now, when you've got people on the crossbench, you can't say, oh, I'll make some time to talk to you and how about I take you down to the trading floor. It's obscene and offensive to two people that are working so hard for Tasmanians to bring forward things that they once had to sit or stand and deliver DD questions in question time, but now have their own ability to ask real questions of this government to get real action and answers to Tasmanians, and then are treated with such disrespect. It is time that this government not only listened and engaged with Tasmanians, not only in the cities but right across rural and regional Tasmania, and got their priorities right for Tasmanians, but also the members of this place. Because it's known in the community that the instability of minority governments will in fact have an impact on all Tasmanians. Tasmanian Labor know health, housing, cost of living pressures are the priorities for Tasmania. Tasmanian Labor have a positive plan for the right priorities, Tasmania, and we have almost feel like stopping calling on this government to take better action because we know they just can't. We know that you can't stand up and make announcements and expect outcomes. We know that you can't stand up and continue to repeat misinformation and expect people in the community not to get what you're saying. Someone earlier referenced a glossy brochure that was distributed to every household in Tasmania recently. One of the things that Tasmanians would believe is that a priority for this government is a stadium to support an AFL team. Now, we all know that Tasmanian Labor absolutely 100% back in Tasmania having a Tasmanian AFL and an AFLW team, but not a priority for a stadium because it's not a priority for Tasmanians. Not once in the brochure did they mention a stadium on a team. Now, if that is your top priority, surely it's something that you'd be singing from the rooftops. But if it is your priority and you can't talk about it publicly, what does that say? One, you know you've made a mistake and your inability to negotiate with the AFL has put you in an absolute pickle, or two, you're embarrassed and ashamed of that. Then I thought, oh, maybe it was a mistake, maybe it was incompetence. But then at the government's budget roadshow, I wasn't in attendance in Hobart or the North West Coast, but in Launceston I was. 3-hour lunch. The budget roadshow. You'd be talking about your priorities for Tasmanians, and we know in the budget papers it has the AFL team and the stadium at the top list of the priorities for this government. Not once mentioned a stadium or an AFL team. Now, if the Treasurer, if the Premier, if this government are really committed to those priorities, which we know are the wrong priorities, Tasmania, you think they'd be proud of that and they'd be talking about it and singing it from the rooftops. Tasmanian Labor know this government don't have their priorities right. We have a positive plan for the right priorities and we will stand by Tasmanians.
Mr. Speaker. Honourable Member for Bass.
Thank you.